Welcome to another episode of In the Box, talking to my partner, Elliot Anderson. I'm Daryl Skinner with Chesterfield County Police, part of the recruiting team. Partner, what's happening?
Going well. Looking forward to this episode. I think this is one of great interest to the public.
What are we going with today?
We are going with our negotiations team members. We have two, our team commander and one of our squad leaders here today.
Okay, Lieutenant, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jessica Seidel, lieutenant here with the police department, and I've been with Chesterfield for 16 years.
All right, Chris, our boss.
I don't know about boss. I mean,
That's how this podcast got started, buddy.
You guys are the boss.
Okay, my producer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah. No, Chris Rizzuti. I have been with the department for, I guess, going on 14 years. I'm currently assigned as a member of our media and messaging team, and I am one of the squad leaders for the hostage negotiation team.
All right, awesome.
And Lieutenant, what was your exact title for the negotiations?
I'm the negotiations team commander.
Team commander.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So,
I'll make sure I got it
LT,
right.
how long have you been with Chesterfield? You said
16
years. And if you start from, because again, our big thing is recruiting. How can we send this message out to the people that want to be police officers in Chesterfield County, talking about the history of each person that we have been speaking to? How would you, tell us about your history. University, going to college. Did you have to go to college to become a lieutenant for the Chesterfield County Police Department?
Sure. So I grew up as a military kid, so we moved around quite a bit and landed here in Chesterfield. And I ended up at actually Richard Blaine College, where I got my associate's degree first.
Okay.
And then I transferred into Longwood University as a junior. I actually got my degree in psychology. My plan was to get a master's degree and become a family counselor.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, we are. And I decided that after my 4-year degree, I was done. And never intended to get into police work. It just kind of happened.
Okay.
So once I got here, though, it was my niche. It was my thing. And I've never looked back.
And do you have a family legacy of law enforcement, or were you the first?
I don't. I have an uncle who was an MP in the military, and I have an uncle who did, jailer. Mm-hmm. But most of my family's military. So, I had that discussion when I was a young adult with my father about possibly joining the military. But we decided law enforcement was probably the better route. So.
Okay, so getting out of the academy, being a patrol officer, what assignments have you had since you've been in law enforcement?
So since I've been with the department, obviously I started in patrol, and I stayed in patrol for a little over 6 years. Did the field training thing, the ID tech thing, did some recruiting with Elliot.
Absolutely. Great recruiter.
Had some good times. And then I went into our criminal investigations division, and I worked there for a few years. And then I came back to the road as a sergeant, and I was on the road as a sergeant for a few years. And then I got transferred to our training academy.
Right.
Was a training sergeant in charge of recruit and officer training. And then I got promoted to lieutenant.
Awesome.
And I've been on the road for a little over a year now.
Good. Chris?
Yeah. I guess you could say I'm from a family legacy in law enforcement. My grandfather on my mother's side was with the New York City Police Department, retired around 1980. My dad, on my dad's side, of course, was a police officer in New York. Then we moved down here, was a police officer here as well. Actually still in the business. He's since retired, but is currently working as a Chesterfield County deputy sheriff.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's working in the courts. So it was kind of like, this is really all I wanted to do, was be a police officer. And went to Virginia Commonwealth University, got my degree in criminal justice, graduated class of 2007. And I pretty much started the academy right after that. I graduated, I want to say May 2007, and July 2007, I was in the academy.
Wow.
So you applied early, knowing in advance that the position would be available.
Right, because it takes about a year. The whole process, give or take a few months. And I kind of knew that, I knew I would be graduating on time, luckily. I say I was a mini super senior because I needed to do 3 more weeks. But it was a quick little 3-week class. But after that, it was smooth sailing into the academy. The academy itself was not smooth sailing. But once you get used to it, it's a great process, gets into great shape and great foundation for your career. So I was assigned to the road for about 8 years. Then I moved to the crime solvers role, which is something you and I both have in common.
Yes.
Take the time to solve the crime.
Take the time.
And after that, my job kind of evolved into what I'm doing now, which is a lot of our digital outreach, digital content. Anything that you might see on YouTube. This podcast, for example, helped broadcast to the masses, if you will, along with you fine gentlemen and my partner, Officer Shaduli. We're getting everything out there that we can.
Good. And you do internal videos and internal messaging as well?
Yes. Yeah, we do a lot of training videos, internal videos that, just messaging amongst officers or our civilian employees, as well as anything external.
Right. So soon you're not going to be in the crime stoppers under that platform of crime
Right.
stoppers.
That actually ended December 26th.
Oh, okay.
And now we're in what's called media and messaging.
Okay.
So that's been what I've been doing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things Chris said was it took him about a year to go through a hiring process.
Yes.
Right.
Because we constantly evaluate our hiring process in our office is now down to between 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
We don't have to make as many trips. And
Right.
Sure.
now, because of COVID, a lot of the stuff is being done virtually. So I want to make sure our listeners know it's a shorter hiring process, but just as vital to apply before you're interested in actual employment.
Exactly.
And don't forget that was like 14 years ago as well.
Right. Yes.
That I was going through that. So it did take a little bit longer at the time.
Right.
Yes.
Well, how about the recruiting? Did anyone ever come out to recruit you all, or did you hear that from your school, or did you see it? I know you've been in, Lieutenant, you've been in recruiting, worked with Elliot a few times. So when you look back at Longwood, did you see any officers recruiting there or get any messages about Chesterfield County's hiring?
If I'm being honest, I don't remember
Okay.
seeing any Chesterfield County officers or job fairs or anything like that. But again, that was 16, 17 years ago. So, for me, it was word of mouth. Honestly, I went to church with a lot of police officers that are retired now. And, I knew the reputation of Chesterfield County. And so it was one of those things where if I was going to do it, this is where I wanted to be. This is the only department I applied with.
So that is still part of recruiting, because you're seeing another officer and seeing how that person carried themselves and speaking to them, saying things to them, saying, okay, I don't mind working in Chesterfield County, being part of that organization, which is awesome. So that's good.
Absolutely.
That's part of recruiting.
Yeah, and when I moved here from Long Island, we moved to Chesterfield County. My folks still live in the same house that we moved into. So I've been in Chesterfield County since 1995, 96, whenever it was that we moved down here. And that's what I wanted to do. I was going to be a police officer. I was going to be a police officer in Chesterfield County. I remember as I was getting closer to the application process, I saw you guys everywhere.
Yeah.
And you'd see Elliot all the time out there. But you were with Crime Solvers, like we said before. And it was like, man, I go work with those dudes. That'd be really cool. And lo and behold, here we are.
Good.
And I wanted to be. This is the only department I applied to. And that's where I wanted to be.
Cool.
Well, Lieutenant, can you tell us a little bit about negotiations? What's the structure of negotiations? You're the commander, so what does that mean for our listeners?
So what that means is that negotiations in our SWAT team fall under the same umbrella that we call PERT, Police Emergency Response Team. And so as part of that, I am the team commander, and then I have 2 assistant team commanders that can fill in for me if I'm not there. And then Rizzuti can also fill in, in that chain. So if something's happening and I'm not available to respond, Rizzuti can step in and start organizing the team. We do have the team divided into 2 squads. We don't function squad specific because we always like to utilize resources that are working first, so you don't know who that's going to be. But it does help with organization and unity and things like that and keeping things straight. So we have 15 members on the team, including me, and we expanded the team probably 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
When we introduced the robot and just additional equipment, it requires additional personnel. So we beefed up our numbers a little bit.
Okay. And Chris, you are a unit leader? What's your title?
Squad leader.
Squad leader,
yeah.
And as a squad leader, what is your role?
It's essentially to operate amongst the chain that Lieutenant Seidel was just talking about. My squad is primarily responsible for the robot, like we mentioned. We can fill in any function, but we handle the robot. We handle what we call going forward, which is, if we have to use the PA system, what they used to use as a bullhorn, we use that. And anything that would involve using that robot that I mentioned before is what we would handle. And, it's just kind of just up the chain and just where I am at that point.
Walk me through the training part of being a negotiator. I mean, is it in 2 years I can put in to be a negotiator? Do I have to be on some other special team? Do I have to take special classes in the academy? How do I become a negotiator?
So for us, it does start in the academy. Every recruit gets an 8-hour kind of basic negotiation class.
Okay.
And then we also offer a 2-hour class if somebody's interested in, kind of some specific negotiation tactics for our patrol officers. But outside of that, I will tell you that Chesterfield County puts on a week-long school, a 40-hour school that I have to say I'm pretty proud of. We work with our regional partners and other jurisdictions send their officers and team members to us to train. As a team, we put a lot of work and effort into it, but it's really 40 hours of a hyper-focused, how to hone our skills and our tactics and our craft of talking and listening to people. And so in order to be an active member, you have to go through a 40-hour school. But yeah, two years on the road, and then you're eligible to put in for that process. And then even if you make the team, we can put you through a school.
Right.
But I think it's always an advantage when you can get as much training to get yourself ready for that process too.
And officers apply after the 2 years in the department and 2 years of good evaluations, work performance evaluations. And then there's a panel interview.
Yep.
And on that panel interview, who are some of the people, or not specific names, but the roles that they would play?
Sure. So on that panel, you would see our PERT commander,
Yes.
and then you would see also the SWAT commander, and then you would see myself, and then an assistant team commander or someone else from the team. And, we do that. The SWAT commander will sit on our panels and I will sit on theirs just because we work so closely together that it's important that we're all involved in those processes.
So it's two separate teams to combine to make one unit,
Yes.
one function.
Now, how often do you all work out, and you said the SWAT team, how often do you all work out with them or do training with the SWAT team?
Yeah, we train once a month. Sometimes if we're able to, we'll twice a month. But we will work with the SWAT team about 4 or 5 times a year, sometimes 6.
Yeah, so we do 2 full team days.
Okay.
And then we do partial team days where we'll do a training with half of whether it's one of their squads.
Yeah. It's been great to be able to do that because, as you train, you're going to fight.
Right.
So if we're going out to a call out and one hand has no idea what the other hand is doing.
True.
How are we going to be able to work together on that? So we're able to all put it together. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows their function. And when we're in a live, real-world scenario, we're able to be as successful as we are.
Now, are they called out a lot? And again, not getting into the specific cases, but are they called out, the SWAT team, I'm saying, are they called out and then they'll call you out, or it could be vice versa?
We usually function simultaneously.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually if one is called, both are called.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always mean that both aspects are going to be needed,
Right.
and there are often calls that initially both teams get called who get canceled. The issue could be resolved before anyone arrives on scene.
Absolutely. That probably happens more often than not, where you're geared up, getting dressed, especially in the winter, getting those warm clothes on, and then before you can get out of the door, they tell you that it's been resolved. So
Right. And a lot of that happens when patrol officers are the first people on scene get it resolved, but we always call out of an abundance of precaution.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we get into a case, I'm going through a domestic at my house.
Sure.
Patrol officer can't handle me because I'm in that state of mind of saying I'm going to harm myself or my family. Is that fair to say a SWAT team is going to come and take care of the problem?
So it's a case by
That's the
case.
administrative side. I'm going to let you handle that one.
Sure. You sure? I can step up and. it's a case-by-case situation.
Okay.
There's no blanket answer that I could give you, because it really, whatever actions are happening on scene are going to dictate the response that they're going to get.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. But
now, who would call you? Will the sergeant on the road would contact you, or does it have to go up the chain before they would contact? And again, I'm asking these questions because I know there's going to be a student that I'm going to go to a school and hear this podcast and say, well, Officer Skinner, I want to be a negotiator because I heard your lieutenant, or I heard Chris talk about being a negotiator. When can I do it? When they're going to call me? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, so the way that it works is if patrol has responded to a scene or an incident and they feel like it's something that they need additional resources for, you're going to have what we call a watch commander working. It's usually somebody with the rank of lieutenant. And that lieutenant is going to be able to make the decision on whether or not to contact our PERT coordinator.
Okay.
And then once the PERT coordinator gets the information that they need, they'll make the decision on what kind of resources are going to be sent out.
Awesome.
I know television leads people to believe a lot of things.
Yes.
And I've seen a bunch of shows with negotiators.
Yes.
If you could dispel a couple things that you think that people perceive about what you do that doesn't actually happen.
Right.
Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Sure.
Yeah, our lives are pretty much a living action movie, and it's the greatest thing in the world.
There's no downtime.
Never a moment. Yeah, never. A lot of it is, I think the best thing about it is, I don't have an exact number for you, but I could say by and large, most of the things that will get called out to end peacefully.
Good.
And without any action, quite honestly, or if there is action, it's minimal action at the most. But the things that you do see, like, if you're thinking about the Samuel L. Jackson movie, The Negotiator and stuff, it's usually not that,
Yeah, we're not taking our vest off and putting our gun down and trading ourselves out with the hostages. We're not.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
That's a good movie.
That's they frown upon that.
Yeah, we're not. That's improper tactic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we see so much of what people perceive is not reality, and I know with negotiations, that's one of those things. I know I recently saw something on television, and they had an entire RV, and everyone was comfortable. The command center was really nice. We have a nice command center.
We do.
But I know I have seen in years past where negotiators are elbow to elbow, trying to figure it out. So.
That's accurate.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Now, do most of your people on the team have degrees in psychology or anything in the field, or they have the ability to do the job and be an active listener and a good communicator?
Sure. So, I think what's important is that we all kind of have diverse backgrounds and different skills and abilities. And so that's what makes us accessible and unique, is that we're all able to connect with different people in different ways, and you've got to have that.
Right.
And so as far as like people's backgrounds, military experience is great so that we can reach out to our military veterans, and we just people who are well versed in mental illness, and we work with our crisis team. We have crisis workers who work with us and train with us so that we can use them as a resource. And so we all have different skills, abilities, degrees. It's not just psychology or criminal justice.
Right. One of the questions I have is, we've had a number of episodes now with Colonel Katz, Colonel Kelly, the training academy, and physical fitness is an issue in each one of those episodes.
Right.
What role does physical fitness play with your team?
Good question.
Yeah, we have a PT standard that we have to uphold to. We take our department-mandated PT test, I believe it's twice a year. Mm-hmm. Just the overall nature of the job, it can be like, we are not active as active as the SWAT team is.
Right.
Those are the guys that are in the pinnacle of, fitness.
Right.
But there are times that we're called to assist with certain things that they're doing. For example, one call from a couple of years ago, I ended up running about a mile with our SWAT officers, carrying the robot with another one, which is a heavy piece of machinery. So if you're not living up to a certain type of PT standard, that's going to really come back to bite you. If you're on the side of the road trying to breathe air in as much as you possibly can before you pass out. So we do have to have somewhat of a physical fitness requirement. Yeah.
I think too, for us, we push the self-wellness, physical fitness, just because of the stress of the position that we're in. You know, some of these calls can last 10, 12 hours. And if you're thinking you're just sitting there talking to someone and it's not that hard, it's exhausting. It's emotionally draining. And especially when you don't know how things are going to turn out.
Right.
So that takes a toll on you physically and emotionally. And so if you're taking care of yourself, you're going to rebound from that.
So speaking of that, the longevity of a negotiation, how do you get your support after the incident? Do you go to and sit down and debrief yourselves and go over stuff?
Yeah, we have a debrief with the entire emergency response team. That's us and SWAT.
Okay.
Then we'll have an individualized one with the negotiations team only. I think our team is in an interesting. It's interesting in the sense that we're a very, very close-knit group of people. So, you know, we've gotten to know each other very well. A lot of us have worked together for a long time. And it's just the fact that, you know, being there for each other has been instrumental in keeping everybody's sanity, I would say. But yeah, we definitely debrief. We do have access, of course, to peer support if we need that.
Sure.
Department psychologist if we need that as well.
We have a good number of peer supporters that are actually on the team.
Oh, wow.
So that's also very helpful.
That's good.
We both are,
right?
In addition to more amongst the team.
And I'm hearing that more and more about the units that we have been interviewing, that we've been doing podcasts with, that the family, that being there for one another is very important in our, especially in this job that we're doing, even as a specialized position as you all have in negotiating. But again, I like it. I never was a negotiator. But I feel like Elliot and I are negotiating all the time.
Yes.
With things that
we're dealing.
Not the 10 and 12 hour negotiations that they do.
Right.
You know.
But anything you want to add to our audience about what they can do to prepare themselves as they're in college, doing the things, or in the military, if they want to look at 2 years after being in law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, for me, it's coming into law enforcement with an open mind, because until you get out there and experience different things, you don't know what is going to fascinate you about the job or what your niche is going to be. And so just experience it all and then kind of decide what it is that you want to take and really hone in on.
Wow.
And, you know.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to keep an open mind in this business, because I'm doing stuff now that I never thought would be what I'd be getting into. You know, I was going to be the next greatest homicide detective in the world and solve every single crime that came down the pike. And that's just wasn't in the cards.
Right.
And I'm not complaining. You know, it's just you keep that open mind. And, boy, I'd like to try that.
Wow.
And you try it and you go down that road and it works out. Everything falls into place.
I think that's one of the good things about our department. We have about 24, 25 specialized units.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Outside of the patrol division, there are a lot of other opportunities for people to come and grow and experience new aspects of policing that they may not have considered when they initially got into the field.
Well, again, thank you all. Thank you. Another great episode of our podcast. And I appreciate you all coming out and sharing some of your skills with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I want to thank our listeners for checking us out again. Check back in 2 weeks for the next episode. Again, if you're interested in employment, go to chesterfieldpd.com and have a great day.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Chesterfield County Police Department podcast. This episode was written by Daryl Skinner, sound engineer Chris Rizzuti. We are the Chesterfield County Police Department representing Chesterfield County, Virginia. Check us out online at chesterfieldpd.com.